Now we will work out exercise question, that is exercise number 12 given on page number 13.26. Prepare correct trial balance from the following trial balance in which there are certain mistakes. So, you understood the question now. The first item is new for you, that is cost of goods sold. It is given in the debit column, but they have said that there are mistakes. It might be having a credit balance. Okay, now cost of goods sold. What can be the nature of this particular item? Is it similar to sales? No. Sales means it is an income for you. We are getting the amount while you sell goods, it is an income for you. Whereas cost of goods sold, the first word itself says it is a cost. It is an expense. That means it is having a debit balance. Whereas sales having a credit balance. So, what is given in the question is correct actually. Cost of goods sold will be having a debit balance because it is an expense. It is not sales, both are entirely different terms. Cost of goods sold means the cost incurred while you sell an item. Sales means the amount which we get at the time of sales, that is revenue or income for you, whereas cost of goods sold means it is an expense for the firm. Understood? Now, there is a formula which you need to learn for cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold is equal to, that is the cost incurred while you sell an item. So, it is an expense. The formula is opening stock plus net purchases plus direct expenses minus closing stock. Okay, so cost of goods sold means the cost incurred while you sell an item. What all expenses, what all additional cost you will have to incur for selling an item. That is called cost of goods sold. It will include what all items? Opening stock, the stock in the beginning of the year. If you have purchased some stock of goods in the beginning, so that will form part of this cost of goods sold. Then other purchases, it is net purchases, other purchased items. Then direct expenses means all those expenses directly related to production. Like while you produce a good for production purpose, you will have to put some fuel into your machinery. So, that fuel is a direct expense. Then factory wages you will have to give, that like wages you will have to give to workers in the factory, that is called factory wages actually. So, all these are expenses which is incurred or which is directly related to the production process, which is termed as direct expense. Expenses directly related to production, that is called direct expenses. Again, that is an expense which will come under this cost of goods sold. Then one item you have to less, that is closing stock. Closing stock means stock at the end of the year. During the year you will sell some goods. Now, what we haven't sold, what we have not sold will remain as closing stock by the end of the year. So, that we will deduct. Understood? So, this is the formula you have to learn, and while you do this trial balance, just look into this formula. You have the first item in the question, cost of goods sold 1,50,000. Okay, this is given 1,50,000. And now you know that this 1,50,000 includes opening stock, net purchases, direct expense. Is it including closing stock? No, because it is written less closing stock. So, closing stock is being excluded from this 1,50,000. Rest all items are there in this 1,50,000. So, the next item, the second item in the question is closing stock. Should we record closing stock inside the trial balance? Yes, because it has been excluded from cost of goods sold. So, when you write cost of goods sold 1,50,000, they are not including the closing stock value. So, separately you have to write closing stock value. But should we write opening stock separately? No need, because it has already been included in cost of goods sold. Understood? So now we can start the question. This is exercise number 12. Exercise means the practical problem. I think in your textbook it is written like practical problem. Yeah, it's written practical problem. So you write practical problem number 12, the last question of this chapter. Given at the end of the chapter, not illustration question. Yeah, so we'll do the trial balance. You give the heading trial balance of, okay, the name of the firm is not given, as on. The rate is also not given, so you just put some dots like this. The next one we'll write the format. You give the column headings. I am not writing, you give the column headings. The first item is cost of goods sold. And since it is cost, it's an expense, it must be written in the debit column. Then should we write closing stock? Yes, because it has not been included in cost of goods sold. So you write as the next item closing stock. The amount is 40,000. In which column will you write? It's written in the question in the credit column, but that's wrong. Stock is having a debit balance always, it's an asset. Then debtors, okay, debtors, there is mistake in debtors figure. I mean it is written in the credit column, not in the figure. The side is wrong actually, it is having a debit balance. So these are the mistakes in the question. They are asking you to rectify or correct. Debtors 60,000. The next one is creditors. In which column they have written creditors? Okay, creditors they have written correctly in the credit column itself. Then fixed assets, assets having a debit balance. Yeah, what they have written is correct, 50 in the credit column, sorry, in the debit column. Then opening stock, okay, should we write opening stock in this trial balance? No, because when you write cost of goods sold, it includes already opening stock. So again don't write that 1,50,000 includes this value of opening stock already. So again don't go and write opening stock in this question. Okay, so we are ignoring that item. Next one is expenses. The side is wrong in the question. It is having a debit balance. So you must write in the debit column 20,000. The next one is sales. That's an income which should come in the credit column 2 lakhs. The next one is capital. It's a liability. $90,000. Yes, now it's over. Sales we wrote in the credit column, no? Yes. Now we just have to add the totals. See whether you get the same answer on both sides. Here in the question the total is 3,50,000, but did you see the answer? It is 3,20,000 because we haven't recorded that opening stock. Okay, so always you have to add and see the totals. Don't simply copy from the textbook. It is not 3,50,000 here, it's 3,20,000. On both sides you must get the same. Now we'll work out. I'm not doing the next question because it is almost familiar. All items are familiar, we'll just discuss it. Exercise number 7, sorry, practical problem number 7, page number 13.24. From the following balances extracted from the ledger of Sri Narugopal prepared trial balance on 31st March 2019. Fine. The items capital you know. The new items if we see we will just discuss. Okay. Plant is an asset. You know that plant and machinery, the building, plant means the building itself, that is an asset actually. So it's having a debit balance, cash in hand you know, commission received is given. If nothing is mentioned, I told you if simply commission is given or simply rent is given, you must take it as paid. if nothing is mentioned. Here it is mentioned received commission or commission received. So, it is an income, it must be in the credit column. Then discount within brackets they have given debit, so that must come in the debit column. So, actually that is discount allowed, because debit balance means it is discount allowed. Then purchases return, you know, interest received, again income, so credit balance. Repairing charges, it is an expense for you, so debit balance. General expenses, again expense. Wages, you know, furniture sales return. Okay, loan advanced by the firm. Bank loan and loan advanced, both are different. Bank loan means the firm is taking loan, it is a liability for you. Whereas loan advance means you are giving loan to other firms or to some other people. So, it is an asset for you because it's receivable amount for the firm. Understood? When you give, when you means the firm, when the firm is giving a loan to somebody else, it is a receivable amount for the firm, it is an asset. So, this is an asset that must come in the debit column. Office salary, you know, building, stock on 1st April, okay, cash at bank, then rates, taxes and insurance. If nothing is mentioned, rates, taxes, insurance, all these should be considered as paid item. Paid item means all these are expenses which will be having a debit balance. Then discount credit means it must come in the credit column, that is discount received. You need not write discount received, you just write discount within brackets credit amount in the credit column. The meaning is discount received. Creditor sales, okay, book debts is given. What do you mean by book debts? Normally students will say book debts means bad debts, but book debts means not bad debts. Book debts means that's other name for debtors. What is debtors or who is a debtor? The amount which we have to receive from a person or the person from whom we have to receive the amount. Understood? So, book debts means the amount of debts receivable from a debtor. That amount of debts receivable from a debtor is known as book debt. When will book debts will become bad debt? If the debtors not making the payment, book debts will become bad debts. Understood? So, book debts means not bad debts, it is the amount receivable from debtors. Rent, nothing is mentioned means it is paid, so it is an expense. Purchases, then carriage and freight. Freight already we have discussed, it is shipping charges. So, next expense for the firm. Delivery van, okay, delivery van, the van which we are using for delivery of goods. That van is an asset for the firm. All vehicles are assets for firm, not only for firms. If you have a vehicle, if you own a vehicle as an individual, that is an asset for you, isn't it? So, similarly, this delivery van is an asset for the firm. Travelling expenses, then drawings. Drawings we already discussed, it is having a debit balance. Okay, now we discussed almost all the items, the new items we discussed. Next is you will add the totals, but in this question, when you add debit and credit sides, it will not be same. And it is not given in the question like there would be a missing value that should be transferred to capital, because I think capital is given separately, no? No, in this question we do not have capital, but they have not specifically said like the difference amount must be transferred to capital. So, you need not transfer to capital, only if they specify you will have to transfer to that particular account. Here the difference amount, the balance amount or the difference between the debit and credit side, you must transfer to a new account. If nothing is mentioned and if there is a difference between the debit and credit sides, you must transfer that difference to an account called suspense account. Rarely only you will get such questions. See, even if you make mistake, suppose you did not write capital in the credit column, you wrote capital in the debit column accidentally, then also debit and credit sides will not be equal. But that time do not write suspense account, you will not get marks because that is your mistake. Understood? But even if all entries are made correctly, but even then you are getting the debit and credit sides as different. In that case, the difference amount you can transfer to suspense account. For one question we transfer to capital, no, because that was specifically mentioned like that. If nothing is mentioned, and if there is a difference between the debit side and credit side, you must transfer the balance to an account called suspense account. Suspense account is a temporary account opened if the trial balance does not tally or does not agree. That means if the debit and credit balances are not equal, we will transfer the balance amount to an account called suspense account, which is a temporary account. Okay, why we are doing like this? See, if you don't transfer that balance to suspense account, what will happen? The debit and credit sides will be having different amounts, and if it is like that, can you prepare financial statements after trial balance? No, because only after you prepare trial balance, you can start preparing trading profit and loss account and then the balance sheet. So, if your trial balance does not agree or does not tally, you can't move on to financial statements or final account preparation. So, for preparing this final accounts, you should make both sides of trial balance equal. In that situation, you can open this account called suspense account. Understood? So, this is all about this chapter. We are winding up the chapter because you just have to learn the preparation of trial balance from this chapter. Then one more thing, suspense account will be opened only in rare cases. Not in every question you will have to open suspense. So, for exam what you get will be usually a question which will tally. Understood? And if your answers are different, if you are not getting the trial balance tallied, that means there would be a mistake in your answer. Don't open suspense account always. But in certain questions like this, you will have to open also. But in very rare questions or rare cases, you will have to do that. So, with this we are winding up the chapter.